Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We now turn to a little poem, What Best I See in Thee, poem number 19 of the 22 of the cluster From Noon to Starry Night. This will be a celebration of Ulysses S. Grant after his world tour. Now, if we're going to celebrate Custer, now we're going to celebrate Grant. And again, just like we said about the Custer poem, Dakota's Canyons, there are going to be a lot of readers knowing what they know about history and knowing what they know, of course, about Ulysses S. Grant. They're going to have some struggles with the celebration of Grant in the way in which Whitman will do it. However, for Whitman, and as a lover of the Union, he saw Grant as being central, and as well as great, as Whitman saw it, a great president, as central to his celebration of democracy. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist, and then everything from the inscriptions, poems, all the way up to and including a set of introductory comments to Starry Night, and of course we just finished with Sprinkled Bunting. Now, our Nortons will tell us about this poem, that it first appeared in Leaves of Grass 1881. General Grant began his world tour in the spring of 1877. Upon completing his 8 years as president, he returned in September of 1879, having been received in England, Europe, and the Far East with distinguished honors. Whitman's comment, quote, "the silent general in Specimen Days," parallels the sentiment of this poem. Whitman saw Grant as a great hero for any number of reasons, not only his time in the American Civil War and his leadership there, but also his presidency itself. Now, obviously, we have the value of some hindsight and some historical research that will make us sometimes question some of Whitman's views of Grant. Let's enjoy, though, the reading of this poem. What best I see in thee is not that where thou movest down history's great highways, ever undimmed by time, shoots warlike victories dazzle, or that thou satst where Washington sat, ruling the land in peace, or thou, the man whom feudal Europe fated, venerable Asia swarmed upon, who walked with kings with even pace the round world's promenade. But that in foreign lands, in all thy walks with kings, those prairie sovereigns of the West, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio's, Indiana's millions, comrades, farmers, soldiers, all to the front, invisibly with thee, walking with kings with even pace, the round world's promenade, were all so justified. Now, this is an interesting poem because it's supposedly a poem about Ulysses S. Grant. But what it really becomes a poem about is, of course, the celebration of America. The idea of the comrades, the farmers, and the like. Let's enjoy now exegeting this poem. He says, what best I see in thee is not actually your accomplishments. There have been some who read this as that Whitman kind of knew that Grant wasn't as great a president, obviously, as Lincoln. And yet, our presidents represent what is best in America, namely, of course, as he will list it, the normal people of America. Notice he says, what best in thee is not that where thou movest down history's great highways. Think about our Hegel and the influence of Hegel on women. Ever undimmed by time, shoots warlike victories dazzle. You'll think about the dazzle of the light in Song of Myself 46. Or that thou satst where Washington sat. This is obviously always going to be the shadow that looms over any president sitting in the room where Washington sat. Ruling the land in peace. That's a big deal, right? Is that after the success of the American Civil War and the Union, it was this challenge to live with some sense of peace. He says, beyond that, or thou the man, Grant, whom feudal Europe fated, venerable Asia swarmed upon. His travel abroad was a success, in other words. Who walked with kings and even paced the round world's promenade. You'll remember this promenade from Song of Myself 8. You'll remember his referencing Asia from facing west from California shores, and you'll remember the word venerable will have been used 10 times in Leaves of Grass. He says, none of that is what's best. What's best, but that in foreign lands, in all thy walks with kings, those prairie sovereigns, and it's interesting he would use the word sovereign after kings, of the West, and then we're going to get 5, right? And again, it's always fascinating what he chooses and why he does it. It would be fascinating to sit down with him and actually have this conversation, like, why did you pick these? Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio's, Indiana's millions. Again, his use of the number millions, right? And then he'll call them comrades. We've seen it, Camaretto and comrades several times, and obviously there's been connections made to Whitman and to Marx when he uses comrades. Farmers, soldiers, all to the front. In other words, Grant was representing what is truly America. It is these individuals, farmers and soldiers. Invisibly with thee walking with kings. This is an amazing insight that Americans can feel like they are right there with the president, who is in fact traveling, Grant, doing this world tour. Walking with kings with even pace. Notice we started with moving, move us down history, and we kind of moved from walks with kings to now we're pacing the round world's promenade. We're all so justified. You'll remember this use of justify, this word in Song of the Universal 2 and Broadway Pageant 3. This idea that, in other words, President Grant in his travels was really in the end just justifying what America actually fundamentally is, the working men and women of America, which again, there's a whole lot of people who will take pride in this idea. Now, why is this poem in From Noon to Starry Night? I think the argument that's being made is that America we like to celebrate our heroes, our Custers or whatever from earlier poems, and our presidents in Grant here. But truly, the real evolution, the reconciliation of opposites is what we said about this cluster. The real celebration, the real heroes are the normal, everyday people of America. Go back to I Hear America Singing to pick up on that same understanding. I think a 2A his argument is that America is only as strong as our leaders, but also as those who stand behind our leaders, normal Americans. At 2B, I love the motif of walking and the word choice that's pacing here. I love the word choice that's played out here. At 3A, well, of course, we're familiar with this idea of justification. You'll remember from our study of Republic 10:6-17, the responsibility is with the chooser, God is justified, right? Of course, we think about Milton's Paradise Lost to justify the ways of God to men. I think that this is a theodicy of a kind even in this poem. This argument that, well, yeah, maybe Grant wasn't the greatest of presidents, but he symbolized or represented to the rest of the world the real Americans, which again are these comrades, these farmers, these soldiers. Finally, at 3B, who do you think is America's greatest leader to represent Americans, all Americans, and what kind of a leader do you think you are? That's an interesting question, and I hope your reading of study of Leaves of Grass helps you to be a better leader. Thank you.